Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you from CES 2025 in Las Vegas, Nevada, and joining me for this segment, we have China Widener. She is Vice Chair of U.S. Technology, Media, and Telecom Industry Leader at Deloitte, and we're here to discuss the benefits and growth trajectory of Agentic AI. China, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to TradeTalks.
Oh, thank you.
And Agentic AI, certainly a big topic here at CES this year. What do you expect from it in 2025?
Yeah, so we've done some research, right? And our prediction around 2025 is that we're going to see about 25% of companies pilot some form of an agent, right? And bringing that forward into the populace. It really will both be at large companies, startups, like it's going to be sort of cross really the sector completely. The good news is what it allows for is what I'm calling testing in the wild. This idea that these pilots will give us information relative to whether the use cases are the right use cases, the level of ROI, et cetera. And then really what we expect to happen is that in 2027, that'll probably double, right? So it's here to stay. It's going to be a part of how we all work, how we play, how we live, for sure. It's really going to be a question of its evolution.
Yeah, it certainly is, and what's interesting, another big topic here has been, okay, we understand companies and their AI strategies and so forth, but what is the ROI, right? What does that look like? So now that you have something with all the data that's being collected to give you more quantifiable insight into it, I think is going to be important for enterprises. Do you see tech companies developing their own agentic AI, or is it going to be somewhat open source, like a Gen AI kind of thing?
Yeah, so I think there's a little bit of both and, right? We're going to have some companies who are going to really develop their own agentic AI. We're going to have companies that are actually using different contracting methods to lease someone else's. And then we're going to have ultimately startups in the open source, because the reality is the evolution, the power's in the use case, right? If you think about, there are 100 million knowledge workers in the US, there's more than 1 billion globally. And so the capacity to create productivity, increased productivity, to free up time, to change really where knowledge workers focus their time and energy is incredibly valuable. That's the ROI. We want everybody to contribute to that, right, collectively. And so you'll have both the corporate agentic that's going to be created, as well as that which is going to happen through open source.
Yeah, which is interesting too. I mean, even anecdotally being able to use some of these AI technologies, it just allows you to get through some of the busy work, but then focus on more strategic work, better research, better insight, even spending time with people.
Oh, well, and the creativity, right? So think about the exchange of our conversation. For me, causes me to think differently about any topic that I was sort of noodling on, right? And so that leads you, it's the synapse firing, right? One connection to another connection creates a different kind of creativity, because we will have more opportunity to do this. Like, some people worry that agentic is coming for my job. It is not. It's not coming for your job. It's coming for the parts of your job that, quite honestly, don't use the best parts of your brain.
Yes.
Right? So when you think about it in that regard, what you have then is an optimal relationship. You have somebody who does all the things that, quite honestly, you would want someone else to do, who's going to do it 24/7, 365, without complaint, without disinterest, with consistency, with accuracy, right? And you are freed up to be thoughtful, to think about the next thing, to take it to the next level of its own evolution. That's the part that's exciting for us as humans.
It is, and if it wasn't unprofessional, I'd like jump up and high five you, because I think, I mean, there's so many different applications, even from the academic perspective. That's a different conversation. But one thing that is always on top of our mind, our core coverage is around cybersecurity. How is that going to be impacted when it comes to agentic AI and all the data that's being collected and being distributed in so many different types of structures? Are we rushing to get these things to market too quick without thinking about risk mitigation in cyber?
So they are hand in glove. There is no not thinking about risk mitigation in cyber. The beauty is agentic AI has the ability to actually support cyber, and to support ultimately the protection of that data and the security of that data, and therefore the extension and privacy that goes along with it, because it has the capacity. Think about it. The whole difference between generative AI as we think about it today and agentic is that it executes, that it actually operationalizes, that it can take the idea or the concept from the developer or the engineer, turn it into code, allow for and account for the security that goes with that. And so when you think about it in those terms, you now have the ability to create an agent that's going to constantly survey and secure. It's not just going to identify, oh, there's a gap in this code, it's going to close the gap.
Yeah.
So that's the value proposition. And so, yes, is it front and center around security and privacy and all the things that go along with it? Absolutely. But we're at the same time developing the ability to better protect.
Which is so interesting, so you can detect, mitigate, and respond, which a human can't detect these things quite as quickly, but to have that immediate response and write that code, okay, this is what we're doing to mitigate and respond is really quite fascinating. Walking around the floor here, what are your biggest observations and takeaways from CES?
So it's interesting. I have a personal one because it's really about, I was very interested in the delivery dogs. And it's actually a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it's also very important when you think about the notion of how many times we move an item in our lives from point A to point B. And the capacity to have that supported, it has all kinds of uses and applications for aging in place to the managing of your own household. But more importantly than any of that is the fact that the ubiquity of agentic AI is everywhere. It's at the edge. It's going to be in our laptops. We expect and actually anticipate that what we're going to see in laptops and cell phones in 2025 is that we're going to see it at the edge. It's going to be on the device. And so we know that kind of additional ability and the solution and benefit that it brings, it's going to get tested in our 24 to 45-year-olds who are willing to refresh their laptops, their phones in order to take advantage of this particular opportunity that generative AI brings, and ultimately showing up in the chips in these end products. Yeah. So the beauty is it is showing up almost everywhere on the floor, regardless of what the core product is, regardless of what it's here to solve or solution for, that it's being embedded. Yes. And so that means where we're headed, and I think at a rate and pace that is important for all of us, which is you turn on a light switch every day. You never think about electricity or the steps it takes for the electricity to actually turn the light on. That's not what you think about. What you think about is the problem the light solves. Right. You can now see in order to execute on the thing that is before you, whether that's reading a book in the corner, whether that's putting something together. It doesn't matter what it is. What it is solving your problem, which is you need better sight. Yeah. That's where we're headed, and that's what I think my greatest takeaway from the floor walking is the fact that it is showing up everywhere, in every kind of product, to fit every kind of lifestyle, working circumstance, the tools, the products that we all need, and that's what's so important.
It certainly is, and this is another high five moment because even anecdotally here, this is our third year covering CES, and when we came here in 2023, this hall was like the EV hall where you would see the cool cars and...
That's right.
Okay, so flash forward to 2025, this is about, we have industrial companies, tractor companies, we have autonomous fire engines that are here, where the things that we were talking about conceptually are actually being practically applied. They're integrated. Yes. We are living with all the safety features we think about in our cars. Right. This is part of the technology we've been talking about.
That's right.
At CES, so it's not like engineering versus practical application. It's integration and UX.
That is exactly right. We are now at a stage, and really what we're going to see is this continued integration. It's operations, it's the technology itself, it's the product, it's all of it now starting to fuse in a way that makes it just part of the experience. Yeah. You won't go call the agent. You will simply solve your problem, right? You no longer have to access it as sort of a thing apart. It just becomes embedded in. And that really is the beauty. That's the flywheel that we all will benefit from, because it applies to every walk of life.
It certainly does. Imagine our conversation 3 to 5 years from now. Right?
Oh, right, absolutely. It'll be a very different one.
Appreciate the insight, China. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me from CES. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.